All right, let's call the Accessibility Advisory Board meeting for November the 7th to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. You all had a chance to take a look at those? All right, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the minutes from 8/1.
And I'll second.
All right, moved in second. Our first item under new business is the annual election. We are looking for a chairman and a vice chairman this go-round. So the board is open to make nominations.
If you take a look at your behind the minutes, I put kind of a mock script for those that this is their first time in this type of election process.
Do we have any nominations?
Am I allowed to nominate? Is that cool? No. I mean, I just want to remind people that Bill is the incumbent, so.
And that means, is he officially the chair right now?
I mean, not really, but he has
Well,
experience.
I'll nominate Bill to be the chair.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay,
I
there's,
nominate David to be vice chair.
so we'll go through the chair and then we'll go through. So I have a motion and I have a second to nominate Bill Rosen as the chair for the Accessibility Advisory Board. Is there any discussion? So we'll go ahead and vote. If I'm going to say your name, and if you are in agreement, just say aye. And if not, then just say pass. Lisa Oakes.
Aye.
David Powell.
Aye.
Jack Davis.
Aye.
Taya Smith.
Aye.
Brad Daly.
Aye.
Claire Mullen.
Aye.
Margaret Finger.
Aye.
And we'll just include Ethan in this since you're good. All those opposed? Same sign. Oh, we got one opposed. Okay, so Mr. Bill Rosen will be our chair. I would like to open up the nominations for vice chair at this time.
I'd like to nominate David Powell.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, so if you are in agreement to nominate David Powell as vice chair, please say aye. Lisa Oakes.
Aye.
Jack Davis.
Aye.
Taya Smith.
Aye.
Bill Rosen.
Aye.
Brad Daly.
Aye.
Claire Mullen.
Aye.
Margaret Finger.
Aye.
Ethan Brown. All those opposed? Same sign. Okay, we are passed. Mr. David Powell is vice chair.
Our next item of business is new member orientation. Before we actually go through the orientation, if we could have the new members, starting from my right, going to the left, introduce themselves and give us a little background and why they'd like to be, why they wanted to be on the board in the first place.
My name is Lisa Oakes. I'm a physical therapist with the Central Kansas Cooperative in Education. I've been a physical therapist for 39 years and have worked with many individuals with varying degrees of disability and learned about the ADA and its impact and felt I wanted to be part of this.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
My name is Taya Smith, and I work for OCCK. I've worked there for 13 years, so I work with individuals with disabilities. I like to learn and grow as this opportunity has come up.
Welcome.
My name is Brad Daly. I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in Salina. I've been here for 12 years. I've dealt with people with disabilities. I've dealt with trying to keep people home after injuries. And then myself being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 3 years ago. I have an interest in this, and so that's why I wanted to join the board.
Welcome to the board.
Okay, my name is Margaret Finger. I moved here in 2015 to teach at Brown Mackey. I have a doctorate in occupational therapy from Creighton, and I'm also visually impaired. I worked in Texas for 36 years as an occupational therapist, and one of the last places I worked for 16 years was a skilled nursing facility. And every patient that we discharged home, before we discharged them home, we did a home and neighborhood assessment to make sure that they were going to a good place. So not only do I have personal experiences with accessibility issues, but working with patients.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
It looks like we've got a pretty well-rounded board this time. Moving forward, as far as orientation, Julia, what did you want to do in respect to that?
So we actually are going to go over a PowerPoint. This is just a kind of brief overview of the City of Salina, but also the Accessibility Advisory Board. This is something new members are usually asked to do outside of the usual scheduled meeting. This year, though, we've decided to make changes, and they will start to happen the first fall meeting. You guys are very unique because you guys only meet quarterly, and so we would have had this meeting in September and go and have this orientation since November is the first meeting. Since the fall started, we are going to go ahead and have it this meeting. Very quickly, though, I would ask our older members if you guys would be willing to introduce yourselves to the newer members quickly, and then I'll go into the PowerPoint presentation. We'll start with you, David.
Oh, I thought we were just talking to our neighbors. I'm David Powell. I work for Independent Connection, where we advocate for people with disabilities. A focal point of mine there is going to be ADA-related activities. So here I am. I've been on the board. I think this is my probably third or fourth meeting now. Remember what month it was, Bill?
Yeah.
You remember what month it was when I started?
Not right at
A
all.
few months.
Might also mention that David has launched a motivational speaking business, and he goes out and talks to different organizations about dispelling the stereotypical disability, what you can and what you cannot do. And he's been quite successful with those talks, most recently in Great Bend.
One in Texas next weekend.
But he doesn't give any door prizes.
Not yet.
Thank goodness you're doing that.
My name's Jack Davis, retired from KDOT. I have a daughter with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair. And, I see her, she's 38 years old. I've seen her needs around the city and things that maybe I could have an input here, seeing different things that's happened to her over her lifetime.
Okay, my name is Bill Rowson. I'm retired from radio broadcasting on a full-time basis here in Salina. Worked on air for about 35 years, still doing some part-time stuff. I've been confined to a wheelchair due to an automobile accident for 66 years now, and this is my second go-round on the Accessibility Advisory Board. So, looking forward to making some real progress. My term ends in August of this coming year, just so you know, David.
You got me back, huh? Nice play.
I'm Claire Mullen, Director of Mobility Management for OCCK Transportation. Dealing with individuals with disabilities on a daily basis has really played a huge impact in my decision to join this board and hopefully help make some real change as well. So.
Great. Okay. If we will definitely email this presentation out after we have our meeting today, so you guys can review it. This is just going to be a really quick overview. First, kind of the breakdown of the City of Salina, since this is a board through the City of Salina, and then our division and the Accessibility Advisory Board. So we are going to do a quick organizational overview, like I mentioned, of the city, breaking down departments, expectations, a quick 101 over the Accessibility Advisory Board, and then you guys kind of already shared why you guys were interested in the Accessibility Advisory Board, but it will ask another question as far as if there's anything specific you're wanting to get out of the experience on this board, and then we'll do questions and answers at the end. And so a lot of people kind of ask why local government. Some people think it's, it's a public service, is honorable, maybe a higher moral purpose. It makes a direct and immediate difference in the lives of others, and it can transform the community that we live in. There's a lot of different types of commissions and boards for the City of Salina, and so really depending on your passion and your hobbies or your experience or what you're kind of wanting to advocate for is what you usually apply for. So we definitely appreciate your guys' interest in wanting to sit on the board. I think we haven't necessarily had a full board in a while. We always kind of missed one or two members, and so I know Kathy isn't here today, but with Kathy here, we will have a full Accessibility Advisory Board, so that's definitely exciting for us to know that there's this many community members that are interested in these topics. So the departments for the City of Salina, we have Arts and Humanities, the City Manager's Office, Community Technology, Parks and Rec, Human Resources, Community and Development Services, Fire, Finance, Municipal Court, Police, Public Works, and the Utilities. And all of them, to some degree, staff boards and commissions. So the City Manager's Office, they have a staff of 6. They supervise and direct administration of all city departments and ensure that laws, ordinances, and resolution of the city are enforced. Hopefully, you guys know who our city manager is, Mike Scragg. If not, they're in here every Monday at 4 o'clock with the deputy city manager and other department heads during the city commission meetings. So if you're ever wanting to come and either just introduce yourself or get a little more familiarized with how the city commission works and the city manager's kind of role in all of that, you have a chance every Monday at 4 o'clock. So the Arts and Humanities, they create programs which promote and encourage public awareness and interest in artistic cultural development in the city. Brad Anderson is the director. They have 11 full-time staff, and they're the one of the departments that's not located in this building. They're actually located in the Smoky Hill Museum. Computer Technology, Jack Rolfe is the director, and they're the ones that keep all of our technology working here for the City of Salina. Finance director is Debbie Pack. They provide professional financing, planning, accounting, and they control all the financial matters here for the city. The fire department, they're housed all around town. The main building 101 is right across the street from the library. There are others around town, depending on where you're located. The closest fire station to your location is the one that would come out and assist you. Kevin Royce is the fire chief. We have 91 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff for the fire department. Human Resources, they administer employee benefit programs, payroll policies, and procedures. Natalie Fisher is the director, and there's 4 full-time staff. The Municipal Court is housed under the City of Salina. We do have 12 full-time staff over there. Parks and Rec, They manage and maintain the city park systems, recreational programs, and other public facilities. Chris Cotton is a director there. There's 10 divisions total within Parks and Rec and 52 full-time employees, 4 part-time. The animal shelter is housed under Parks and Rec, as well as Kenwood Cove Water Park, which is open during the summer months. The police department, Brad Nelson is the chief of police. There's 111 full-time staff, 3 divisions, patrol, detective, and support. Public Works, Jim Kowach is the director. They are the engineering and general services part of the city of Salina. Utilities, Martha Tasker is the director, and she has 57 full-time staff. We have partnerships with the soccer complex, Arts Humanities Foundation, Friends of the Museum, Salina Arts Center, Salina Community Theater, and CityGo OCCK. So the one that we are kind of going to focus on a little bit more is Community and Development Services, because that is where our department is housed. The mission is to encourage and promote safe, quality development and construction in the city of Salina. I heard a lot of people saying, kind of the mobility concerns maybe in Salina, and how does that affect family members or your personal kind of situation that you've had around town. And so this is where a lot of planning, a lot of all the construction, everything that would tie into a lot of those areas happens in the Community and Development Services Department. We are made up of 4 divisions: Planning and Zoning, Building Services, Neighborhood Services, and Community Relations. Our division is Community Relations. Evelyn Nelson, who was not able to be here today, is our supervisor. I am a Community Relations Specialist, and currently it is just us 2 in the department, in the division. Lauren Driscoll is the director for the whole department. And so within the Community and Development Services, we have 7 boards and commissions that we staff: Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, Heritage Commission, Design Review Board, Human Relations Commission, Accessibility Advisory Board, and Building Advisory Board. Our division staffs the Human Relations Commission and the Accessibility Advisory Board. And hopefully, the new members are aware before they applied that this is a quarterly board. You guys will meet around 4 times a year, if not more, depending on needs and situations. And you guys meet, that needs to be updated. You guys used to meet on the 3rd Thursday, but now you guys meet on the 1st Thursday of the quarterly month. So there are different types of meetings. There's the regular meetings, which would be the 1st Thursday we just talked about. Sometimes special meetings can be called, study sessions can be called, and then annual meetings. The annual meeting will probably be every November, just because you guys are on a different schedule than the other boards and commissions. But at that meeting, it'll be very similar to this one. We'll introduce the newest members. We'll have a quick orientation and then talk about what the plan would be for the upcoming year. There will usually be an agenda in order to kind of keep us on track. There'll probably be staff reports, attachments, ordinance resolutions. That's usually with planning review and zoning. That's not something that would really necessarily affect us. We'll have meeting actions and we use meeting actions and parliamentary procedure. So motions, call to questions, reconsider, withdrawal, quorum, public hearing. We use Robert's rules. So if you're not familiar with that, there is there should be a little pamphlet in the, yes, it's green. Some of them are green, some of them are white. In your folder, and if not, we're going to watch a brief video here in a little bit that kind of goes over that. If you have any questions or you're not sure, definitely just please ask questions and let us know. We're here to help and help you guys be able to be successful in this board. So for the community relations, the code of section that we use the most, we have the ADA, which is Americans with Disability Act, the Fair Housing Act, Equal Opportunity Act, Affirmative Action, and the Kansas Residential Landlord Tenant Act. So those are the things that we are educated on, what we assist the community with as far as education, advocacy, and just trying to make sure that everyone is aware of what their rights and responsibilities are in our community. For this specific board, some of them may intertwine with the board, but we will usually be working off of the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act. So kind of conduct and expectations. Attendance is very important. We cannot have a meeting unless we have a quorum. So for you, a board of 9, we at least need 5 members to be here in order to conduct a meeting. So it's really important if you're not going to be here. It's okay. We already appreciate you guys. We realize you guys are volunteering your time, and we appreciate that. If you will just let me know if you're not going to be here, that just lets us have a head count before 3 o'clock comes around, and we can let everyone else know if they, need to either cancel or if we're still going to meet. If you don't hear from us, usually we'll be meeting. I usually just make phone calls or send out an email if enough of you have let me know that you guys aren't going to be able to make it. And that's okay. And when that happens, sometimes we just wait. It'll be a very long while before everyone gets together. Or if there's something pressing, the chair and vice chair can call a special meeting in order to get a meeting organized before the next time you guys were to meet.
Would you also give a cautionary note on email communication among board members?
Yes. So a quorum is any time 5 or more of you guys are together or communicating. And so we will usually send out emails, BCC, meaning you guys won't know, so that you guys can't reply all to each other and start having a conversation, because that can also be considered a quorum. And if we're not providing that to the community members, we can be in violation of the Kansas Opens Meeting Act. And so if you guys have questions, please, you guys are allowed to email us directly, but if you have questions and want to kind of do a group chat, that would be something that we have to announce it in the newspaper. We have to let people know if they've signed up to be made aware of anything that happens with the Accessibility Advisory Board. And so just keep us updated, and we can make those arrangements. You guys won't have to make those arrangements, but it just helps to make sure that we're not violating any rules or any laws.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the subcommittee situation that we had set up prior to the new members coming on board, the most we had on those committees was 3, which would be permissible for those individuals to communicate by email without violating open meetings.
Correct. However, that's on section 4.1. We're all going to talk about that because there are going to be some changes to that as well. Just because there can be some gray area on interpretation of what the law of Kansas states as far as Open Meetings Act. And so that's why on section 4.1, we'll go more into detail of what those changes are going to be. But if you have any question or if you're just unsure, just give us a call and we'll be able to answer those and walk you through it. And if we don't know the answer, we'll figure it out and get back to you on that. Just for attendance, if you miss more than twice without what we call no call, no shows, meaning you didn't let us know, you just didn't attend, then we are to let the city manager's office know. At that point, the mayor will reach out to you and ask you if you're still interested in being a part of the board. And if you don't reach back out to the mayor, then you will be taken off the board, and your spot will be opened up to somebody else that has applied to be on the board. Read your packet. Usually I always have your packets available for you the day of. Everyone should have their binder in front of them. We do try to send the packet out a week before we actually meet to give you guys time to read over things. If there's anything very lengthy, we usually try to either star it or make it kind of communicate to let you guys know that it's not something you can briefly read or go over, during the meeting. You may want to take a closer look at it before you get here. But if you guys have any questions, again, just don't hesitate to let us know. No phone calls or texting during the meeting. It's okay. So just, just make sure that they're off and silent. And that's just, again, goes to, we just don't want to break any of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. And that can also get kind of gray, whether or not there's communication happening outside of the meeting. Listen to each other, ask questions, and be independent and informed. Don't feel when we do have motions and voting and have decisions that need to be made, please feel free to have a voice. Don't feel like you have to go with everybody else. It's very important that you guys feel like your voice is being heard. Okay. So our division's mission statement is to eliminate discrimination and to establish equality and justice for all persons within the city of Salina through civil rights enforcement, advocacy, and education. And that's just in every aspect of what that means. Disability is definitely a protected class that we enforce in our office. And so this is something, again, that this is why this board is housed in our division. So we are authorized to enforce this under Chapter 13 for employment, housing, and public accommodation. We are also considered a fair housing program, a FAP under the Housing and Urban Development. We educate on the Kansas Landlord and Tenant Act. We also educate on the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, and Evelyn is currently our local ADA coordinator. So the purpose of the Accessibility Advisory Board to advise and make recommendations to the City Commission on such matters related to accessibility as from time to time may be referred to the board, to evaluate projects and activities, both public and private, and to advise city staff on matters related to accessibility. So as if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of construction going around in our city right now. Definitely exciting things once it's completed. Can be a little frustrating when it's currently happening, but hopefully a lot of these projects we're being made aware of them, or they're getting our advice, or not but your guys' advice or opinion on these, so that we can get it right the first time and not have to come back. Although it has happened, I know the field house. Jack, were you here for the field house too, when we went and visited the field house? No?
We did a proactive evaluation of the field house and came up with a number of items that we felt could be corrected, and they were very willing to make those corrections. They were very minor, and that's our hope, working with these different departments in advance, so they don't incur unneeded expenses going back and retrofitting things, like Parks Department, which is a hot spot for David. So.
Also, it's to provide technical assistance to the city on matters related to the disabled population, to review city plans for projects prior to implementation, to serve as advocates for citizens with disabilities, to serve as resources on policy and/or procedure for members of the Board of Commissioners and for city staff. I'll say there's been some times when we've been asked if board members can go and test something out or go and see how something would work, either with somebody that has mobility issues or that may not be able to use depending on what the situation may be. Jack, I know you went and tested one of the, was it in the dock? You tested a kind of a trail they were doing.
Yeah, it was over at, what's that park?
Was it Jerry Ivy Park?
On Magnolia in Ohio. Yeah, it surprised me. It worked pretty good.
And so kind of getting that firsthand, and so it's not somebody who can't relate to that limitation, can't they try to get that firsthand actual experience of, is this going to work or is this not going to work? I think there are definitely different standards of, the bare minimum of standards of, okay, this is kind of what we need, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that it's that very functional. And so definitely trying to keep you guys as board members involved and getting that firsthand experience to provide that feedback back to whoever it is that's doing that project, so they're made aware of that.
I did have a question. I don't know if this would be the time to bring it up, but
Sure.
about a year ago or so, we were talking about Sunset Park, and they had put some handicap parking there. And the city had, when a van pulls up and the lift is on the right side of the van, there's a power pole right in the middle of where that lift would be, and they were going to change it, and it's been about a year now, and it's still there. I don't know if, it just seemed like you could just.
I think we probably need to get, Rick Martin. I think we probably need to get Rick back in here and talk about that.
Okay.
It seemed like I could just move the paint, this parking spot down 20
Well, there's
feet.
probably a little more involved in it, as far as repainting the pavement, but, yeah, we need to, maybe for the next meeting, get Rick in here.
And then it
Definitely.
just dumps off into the grass, and that's
Yeah.
kind of hard to maneuver, but sure.
Yeah,
And-
it's been about a year since we talked to him about it.
I will definitely make that note and then reach out to Rick to see if he's available to come to the next meeting to talk about that. So just kind of a little bit of the duties for the board: attend quarterly meetings and special meetings as needed. Special meetings will be discussed as a board, and every effort will be made to accommodate schedules. Work plans will be created annually, and there is the possibility of being a special meeting. Coordinate and communicate with the Community Relations Division staff and the ADA coordinator. They're all one in the same office, so that shouldn't, there won't be a kind of miscommunication regarding accessibility concerns. So even if, we'll get calls from concerned community members who have concerns. We had somebody call us when Five Below was opened about their door to see if they thought the door was too heavy or the kind of the hinges were a little too tight. And so, someone went out to check that out and make sure that that was, up to code and to standard. We've had someone call on the mall many years ago when we had a lot more stores at the mall. Someone called out because they weren't about accessibility, being able to come in through a certain area of there. And so we do have members of the community that call our office. We try to keep you guys updated as much as possible when those happen. But even if we don't get calls, if you guys have any concerns or if you guys are out and about and realize something, please feel free to give us a call and bring that to our attention and let us know. Okay, and so also contribute to community educational projects, raise awareness of board for accessibility issues within Salina, and have basic knowledge of the ADA. So just a 101 of what is the Americans with Disability Act. It became law in 1990. It's divided into 5 titles. Title I, employment. Title II, state and local. Title III, public accommodation. Title IV, telecommunications. And Title V, miscellaneous provisions. Our office is able to assist with employment and public accommodations. That's why those are highlighted. And then transportation regulations are covered under Title II and Title III. In 2008, the Americans with Disability Act Amendments Act was signed into law and became effective on January 1st, 2009. The ADAAA made a number of significant changes to the definition of disability. The changes in the definition of disability and the ADAAA apply to all titles of the ADA. So we are going to switch gears a little bit and watch a quick video about parliamentary procedures.
proposal for action by a board of directors. The board needs to decide what it will do with each motion presented in the agenda. Motions are the way that a board of directors makes decisions and gives direction. The way a board handles motions is at the heart of how efficient and effective it is in its decision-making. A skilled chair will follow some level of parliamentary procedures. The most common is Robert's Rules of Order. In fact, some association bylaws require the use of Robert's Rules. There are 4 main steps in addressing a motion. 1. Making the motion. 2. Seconding the motion. 3. Discussing the motion. 4. And voting on the motion. Motions are prepared and included in the agenda for a board of directors meeting. A motion begins when a board member says, "I move," and then states the motion. Motion should always be specific so there is no uncertainty on what is being decided. If a motion is formulated at the board meeting, it may be wise to take a short break to give individuals a chance to help prepare for the proper wording. Once a motion is made, it cannot be discussed by the board until it is seconded. A second does not mean the seconder agrees with the motion, but that he or she believes the motion is worthy of consideration. A director can make a second simply by saying, "I second the motion," after a motion is made, without having to obtain the floor. If no one feels that the motion is worthy of discussion, it does not have to be seconded. In that case, the chair would say, "The motion dies for lack of a seconder." It may seem awkward if nobody supports the motion, but respect everyone's time and move on to other business. After a motion is seconded, the motion is discussed by members of the board. It's the chairperson's responsibility to ensure that all comments are made through the chair and that debate is controlled to ensure fairness, balance, and efficiency. Once the chairperson feels that sufficient discussion has been made regarding the motion, he or she will call for the vote. It's up to the chairperson to protect the rights of each attendee to speak, make motions, advocate a position, and to vote. There are different ways to vote, but the most common is by a show of hands. Votes by secret ballot are rare at board meetings, but may be used in areas of confidentiality or sensitive matters. Once the vote is taken, the chairperson announces the result of the vote. There you have it, the main steps in making motions. The proper handling of motions helps board meetings accomplish their objectives in the most efficient and fair manner.
Okay, and that's just standard. If you've never been on a board that uses Robert's Rules, that's kind of standard for all the commissions and boards for the city of Salina. Like I mentioned, our division and our office and department has 7 all in its own, and there's definitely other departments in the city who have multiple commissions and boards, and it's just trying to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page and using the same kind of standards and expectations for how those boards are run. We are following Kansas Open Meetings Act, or COMA, so if you hear COMA, that's what it's referring to. It bodies, if the COMA bodies have to have 2 main requirements. Their meetings must be open and notice of meetings must be individually provided to those requesting notice. If you want to get notified of any type of commission or board and their minutes or when they're meeting or any type of communication that's provided to them, if you go on the City of Salina webpage, at the very bottom, there is an option in order for you to opt in and put your email to get that information. As a board member, you will always get the communication through us, but if you were curious about any one other of the commissions or boards, or if your term is up but you still want to get the communication and get the information, you're able to do that. And if you have any further questions, I can show you guys later on, or I can walk you kind of through what that looks like. But again, that's just to make sure that we're following the COMA, the Kansas Open Meetings Act. all meetings subject to coma must be conducted openly. That means that the public must be allowed to listen to the discussion. The meetings at a public body subject to coma has 3 elements: an interactive discussion by and between at least a majority of the body, and on matters relating to the function of that body. All 3 elements must be present to trigger the coma. And we do have kind of that disclaimer on the email that we talked about before. We just have to be cautious when we use emails, because we could without even trying to violate the Kansas Open Meetings Act. We talked about this a little bit already, kind of what the majority means. It's called a quorum. For this specific board, the quorum will be 5, so we just need to make sure that we have 5 members, and that Ethan, I don't know if I explained this earlier, Ethan is our youth on board. He's kind of our rock star youth on board. He's been with us for, has it been 3 years already?
I think it's 2. I started in December of 2017.
Yeah. 3 times, okay. And he keeps on coming back, which we're really excited about that. But it's definitely a great a learning experience and process for him. He does not get to vote, however. He doesn't necessarily have the same powers that an actual board member has. And so we kind of, sometimes when he's here and we haven't had that 5th member show up, we wish we could just get, Ethan in there to take that place. But we do need 5 actual board members to show up to have a quorum. So at this time, the only thing after this is just to kind of answer any questions if you have any. I know we kind of talked a little bit about why you decided to sign up and volunteer for the Accessibility Advisory Board, but our office does have a question, or what do you want to get out of this experience? Is there something specifically that you are wanting to get out of that hasn't been addressed, or that you haven't talked about, or no one's talked about? Now I see a lot of shaking heads, and and that's fine. We'll definitely talk more about things as we go, as we continue to work through the work plan and continue to meet in months to come. Are there any specific questions, comments, or concerns?
I have one question.
Yes.
I've lived in 3 different states, and I'm fairly familiar with audio signals at the streetlights. But when I'm downtown, it seems like they're chirping all the time. And I don't know, who could I talk to so they could explain the system of the audio lights downtown?
So that would probably be, I feel like the director is Jim Kowach. I can give, if I can get in contact with him and provide him your contact information so that he can get in contact with you directly, would that be okay?
That'd be fine.
And I'll just let him know, just in case he has to do some research or get more information, he's prepared when he, because I'd hate for him to be like, oh, I need to call you back in a week, or, so
that's fine.
so he can get that information. But please don't leave without us connecting and me getting that. Although I should have everyone's contact information, but I'll just double check to make sure I have the most accurate email and phone number for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Does the Community Relations Office have information available for the new board members that might not be well-versed in the ADA? I think everybody knows a little bit about a little of all of it, but if you want to get into it more in depth, do you have copies of it available that can be checked out? Or, I know it's on the website, but that's kind of generalized.
Right. We haven't really had any available, but we can definitely look at that. If there's a need for that or an interest, we can make those available too. I know in the past, there was some type of documentation in your binders. I'm not sure if it's still, we do recycle the binders, so sometimes documents get taken out and not replaced in there. And so I will actually work with Evelyn on making kind of a quick overview and have that available. I'll email it out to you guys, but I'll also print it and put it in your guys' binder so you guys have a paper copy as well.
Okay.
If we did not have a quorum, are we able to give Ethan our proxy vote?
I wish.
Can't, okay.
No.
I've been on some boards where we have proxy votes, so.
Yeah.
You give Ethan a chance and he'll throw a coup and we'll all be out.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'm done with the orientation.
Any questions on the orientation? Any discussion on it? All right, with that, we will move on to our next item under new business, and this is the discussion of the 2020 work plan. By way of explanation, last year, well, and actually earlier this year, we put together a work plan for the Accessibility Advisory Board. Is there a copy in here of all of it?
There is not a copy in
Okay.
there. I have a
There were several items that we had identified that, as a board, we wanted to work on. And I'll give you a little history here of what transpired for the new members that are coming on board. We identified areas that we wanted to work on with the city, various departments in the city, to achieve certain goals. One of which was updating the transitional plan, which is basically a list of activities that the city's been involved in, bringing things up to code as far as ADA is concerned, where they are, what the projected date for working on these was, when they were expected to be finished, so on and so forth. And we'll get into a discussion on subcommittees, but we broke it down into subcommittees in order to move things along a little quicker. The problem that I think we were in a consensus on previously was that only meeting 4 times a year, it's hard to make progress on these things. So we broke it down into subcommittees. Ethan was on a committee with Jake Wise on the transitional plan. Kathy and Claire and I were on a subcommittee for I can't remember what we decided we were going to call it. It was the
With first responders,
yeah,
wasn't
first
it?
responders, and I'll explain that a little bit to you here in a minute. But basically what we can do is look at the 2019 plan that we had, and I can tell you that it didn't get past the embryonic stage, really. We were on the cusp of making some real headway, I feel, on these things. The first responders list, updating the transitional list, and we kind of lost that momentum temporarily when the new members, or when the old members basically had to be replaced. Kind of took us by surprise. So we kind of spinning our wheels a little bit. So once you look at the 2019 plan for the new members that are coming on board and for the old members as well, you might consider, do we want to continue with what we have on the 2019 plan, just carry it over to its completion, or do we want to wipe the slate clean and start all over?
And I didn't print out a copy for everybody in their binder, but I am able to pull it up here on the screen on what was developed. There was 4 goals and a couple objectives for each goal. Goal number 1 was to develop an education program to educate the community on accessibility for all community members. Objective number 1, work with Independent Connection for education materials to use the community members.
All right, if I can interject at that point, that was Christy Marco, who is with Independent Connection, was going to provide us with educational material. What she found was via the internet through KU Med Center, basically, on educational information about transferring, transportation, things of that nature. That one is one that basically is in hiatus because of Christie no longer being on the board.
Number 2, work on promoting who AAB is and what education they can provide for the community through face-to-face, brochure, flyers, etc. Number 3, complete 4 outreach activities with local businesses. Number 4, speak with Ad Astra Coffee Shop to host a public parlay. So this was goal number 1. I feel like on all the goals, there was some type of start or research or beginnings, but none of them were actually executed because of not being able to meet on a regular basis. And kind of the difference between boards meeting every month and this one only meeting 4 times in a year. I think one of those we actually weren't even able to meet because of lack of a quorum.
Right.
And so if you add that into the mix, it just makes it hard to be able to accomplish some of these things.
The thinking on goal number 1 was that there are a lot of things that the general public is not aware of, that people with various disabilities, doesn't matter whether they're visible disabilities or invisible disabilities, the general public, the retail community are not aware of it. And developing a type of an educational program to where we can bring these things to people's attention, have a situation where we can get kind of a public forum. And I know that public forums, unfortunately, are not well attended, but you get people to give you a little feedback, ask questions, get the retail involved in knowing how they can benefit from making their facilities accessible, how it increases their bottom line a little bit. But that was the idea behind goal number 1.
Goal number 2 is to create a residential identification program with first responders to identify residents with disabilities. Objective number 1, invite all first responders to AAB meeting to discuss topic, including background of previous programs in Salina. I know at our last meeting, Mr. Rosen was able to get the person who actually runs this, there's actually a program in Salina.
Wayne Pruitt is responsible for scheduling of dispatchers. What we learned at that particular point from Wayne when he was here is that there is what they call jackets available. I'm not talking about a physical jacket, but this is like a computer jacket for people that have had run-ins with the law. That information can be put in there for first responders. In this particular case, the way it stands right now is it would indicate whether a person might have a felony, might be prone to domestic disputes, things of that nature. It was Wayne's impression that that could be expanded upon very easily to, on a volunteer basis, to where we could indicate that there was a person living at a certain address that had a disability of some sort that might need additional help, that would be a heads up for the first responders, whether it's the police department or the fire department, EMS, what have you. His suggestion at that particular time would be to get like the chief of police, the sheriff, and the fire chief in here all at one time and just talk to them about it. It does not look to be that labor intensive as it would be on a volunteer basis. And then it would be up to the individual. If you moved, you would have to let them know so that they could update the jacket. But people that I've talked to that were in law enforcement said it would be a great help to them to know what they were walking in on. if you've got somebody that's got a mental disability, a communications problem, to know what they're getting into gives them a real heads up.
So I put this one in red because I feel like this, again, I said some of these have actually already, the very beginnings have kind of started on it. And so as Bill mentioned, we could possibly roll over some of these into the next year, not necessarily having to start from scratch. Or you guys can completely say, no, we want to, redo have completely different goals for 2020. It's completely up to you guys as a board. But as, Mr. Rosen had said, this one, a lot of the kind of the beginnings of the work has already been done. We've had a presenter come out and talk. I think it's just a matter of continuing, not letting that momentum die down, but continuing to meet with, the chief of police, the fire department, and everybody that would potentially be affected by this, and kind of see what options are available and how this could really be implemented in our community. And so this doesn't necessarily have to roll over, but I did put it in red because I feel like there was a lot of interest last time from the other members to continue to pursue this.
One thing I would add, and I'm not the wordsmith that Julia is, I would like to see, it doesn't matter to me personally whether we carry these over, whether we roll them over, whether we start new, but it is essential that we approach this with the idea of getting some results. I don't want to see us set another year and not be able to leave the board and say, we got something done. Your time is too valuable to come in here once a month or whatever it is, and then to not get anything done. Everybody has a desire to see changes made within the community that make it a better community for everybody, whether it's able-bodied or somebody with a disability. But the point of the matter is, we need to get past the talk stage with whatever it is that we're doing and find something actionable that we can do, that we can look back on and say, this is what we did during our time on the board.
This may be a silly question, but whose decision is it to meet, how often you meet?
That will probably come up here in just a matter of moments on the subcommittee discussion.
I was thinking the same thing, too.
Do we want to go ahead and move on to that?
Sure. So we are going to discuss that under the subcommittee discussions. In the past, as Mr. Rosen has said, subcommittees have been formed to try to meet outside of the regular time so that. Oh. Is it on now? Okay. To be able to meet outside of the regular time that people were meeting. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't think those meetings were actually happening all the time. And so it was very hard to actually accomplish things because the meetings weren't happening, and therefore the objectives and the tasks that were talked about the previous meeting weren't getting done, and then 3 months would pass and we would meet, and then when we would ask for an update, well, there was really nothing to update because those meetings weren't happening. And so because of that, but also because of the fact that because of COMA and how gray it can be when it comes to interpretation of, should that be something the public is made aware of? Is that something that should be discussed, in a setting like this, to where, we can have a public come in and talk about it and give their opinion or or voice on things. We have decided to not have that, not even have that be a problem or set the boards and commissions back. And so if you guys were to meet, it would have to be a special meeting, or if you guys decide you guys no longer want to be quarterly and want to meet more than that, every other month or every month, or that's, it'd really be a decision that you guys first would decide. It would maybe a request from you guys. After that, it would be something that we could take to our director and we could advocate for you guys to get something like that approved. As a staff, we would, it would also obviously affect us because we would be right here with you guys more often. We would just need to make sure that if we're meeting more often, that we have if we decide to change this to 12 times, a year, meet every month, and we don't have a quorum half of the time because people aren't coming out, then that might be, that might not be something that we can continue, moving forward. But if we have a quorum every time, or if we see that that's something that is going to, keep on, it's a benefit for the board, but it's also a commitment that you guys are able to make, then we'll definitely support you guys and work on getting that done. Now, I do know, obviously, especially for the new board members, when you sign up, and it is, it was advertised as a quarterly meeting, something that you guys would only come out, quarterly, the first Thursday of that month. And so definitely it's something that my assumption would be that needs to be discussed, that, opinions, how are people feeling about that? How are people feeling about making a change? Is that something that you guys are wanting to do? Do you guys need to think about it? And it is kind of hard because the next time we would regularly meet wouldn't be until February of next year. And so is that something that, within a week or two, I reach out to you guys over email to kind of see that you guys, would want to, there's different ways of going about this. I don't know if you want to open it up for discussion.
Well, I'd like to get the input from the board on how they feel. Originally, I liked the idea of the subcommittee simply from the standpoint that I felt that we could make some progress there. Part of the reason that the subcommittee situation didn't work, and I don't want to say it didn't work, it was on the verge of working, but we were late in developing a plan as to how we wanted to divide the different objectives up on subcommittees, like the first responder situation, the transitional plan. That was late in getting identified. I think from a personal standpoint, and it's a lot different for me maybe than some of the other people on the board, being retired, I don't have a time constraint. To me, I think we would make more progress on a monthly meeting as opposed to the quarterly, but I'm open to discussion on it. I'd like to hear what other people think.
If anything, to gain more traction, I know we're only meeting 4 times a year now, but if we even met 8 times or every other month to see how that goes, and if it goes good, then go to every month. But I definitely think we need to meet more often because we lose sight of what we're doing because it's only every 4 months that we meet. I know the subcommittee that I was doing, I think I was by myself with it, but it was going to the Parks and Recs meeting. Mm-hmm. I've been doing that, and I have some updates, but at the same time, there's a gray area on if I felt like I was saying the right things or doing the right things while I was in those Parks and Recs meetings. I was attending them and speaking up if there was something new being made to make sure ADA was compliant. But then again, I wasn't there at the site seeing it myself. I was just going off what they were saying. which is, I guess you learned with the field house. They say it's ADA compliant, but there were some minor mistakes that you had found, you had said.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going off of people's word, and I didn't know if I was supposed to go out and check these places out myself, or just attend the meetings and report back, or what, because we weren't meeting enough for me to, I mean, I could have reached out to you myself, I guess, but as far as to.
And I think one of the problems there, David, is that the board really doesn't have any teeth, if you know what I mean. I mean, we can make suggestions, and I think from a personal standpoint that every member that's on the board has a responsibility to speak up if they see something that is not ADA compliant, but knowing full well that you are doing nothing but voicing your concern, that you really have no way of enforcing it.
And that's what I was doing. I just didn't feel like anything was really being done because it wasn't being enforced, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't think there are people that are intentionally
Yeah,
doing it. I think it's,
but people don't know about it, so
Yeah.
therefore.
yeah, it's just so many words on a piece of paper in a big notebook.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think if we met more often, we'd have more of a clear image of what's going on and how we're doing it, instead of meeting 4 times a year, or 3 times a year if quorum wasn't met one time. That's nowhere near enough in my mind that things are going to get accomplished if that's how we keep it.
I could meet more often than quarterly.
What would you consider to be the ideal number? Daily?
Either the monthly or like every other month, like he suggested.
I mean, probably just to start off, since you've been going quarterly, just to let's put that extra one in there first. Let's do the 8 instead of the 4. And then once you know that everyone's coming to the 8, then we'll go ahead and go to the 12.
Yeah, I agree. Every other month.
Sorry, but sorry, but when Bill was talking about how at the last meeting, while we still had some of our other members who are no longer here, the reason that I'm trying to applaud you guys for being here, because last time we have been talking about subcommittees for about 6 months now, just because it was really hard to comply with COMA, just because to make a subcommittee, it'd be like half of the board. So we got into like less of that gray area and more into that black area. So for us to have so many members, the subcommittee is more of a viable option than it was like even 3 months ago, in my opinion.
So does someone want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to meet every other month.
A second.
Any discussion?
Did you feel that with the subcommittee meeting, so if you kept the meetings quarterly, but by dividing the work up into the subcommittees, that would be more effective than having all 9 members meet every other month in terms of coming to these decisions? A little bit, when you first started discussing it, you said you were making some headway on the subcommittees.
Well, the extent of the headway was, I mean, we had a consensus that people wanted to move forward. That was the momentum that we had going. I know when we were working on the first responders, Kathy and Claire and I were looking at things from other police departments, other governments, but unfortunately, whatever communications we had at that particular point, we couldn't really do anything on until the regular quarterly meeting. So
I don't think we need to do away with subcommittees. It's completely just because we're meeting every other month. We still need to keep the subcommittees,
Yeah.
but that'll give us a better basis of communicating with everyone
Okay.
with those subcommittees.
Because, I mean, the amount of time that it takes to come back, it's like what Bill said, it's died out by that point. I mean, we've talked pretty much right after the quarterly meeting that we've had, made those communications, worked on some things, and then by the time it's time to come back, we've kind of lost moving forward anymore because it's been such a long time frame.
Okay.
So.